Thank you, Jill. Thank you to MasterCard and thank you to PASA for having me here today. I think you guys will agree that this conference has been a real step up from previous conferences, and it's absolutely outstanding. Wonderful to see so many people here, to see people, international people, come in and listen to the speakers and to engage. I'm going to talk to you for about 30 minutes. You'll be very pleased to know that I'm not going to kill you with PowerPoint. An important point that I need to make is I stand here not as an employee of Nedbank. Okay? I stand here as a member of the Payments Inc. of South Africa. And I hope that all of you stand here or sit here today as that, because I think we've got some really big challenges that we as a community of people need to solve. If you go back in history, you will see that South Africa have had some of the most amazing payment innovations in the world. And it's my view that in the last 10 years we've gone backwards. Okay? And I think we need to deeply understand why we've gone backwards. We need to understand the cornerstones of payments, and interoperability is one of those. And I think, and as we go through the presentation, we'll see there are many instances where we have closed-loop systems rather than interoperability. I'm going to start off telling you about my master's research in Alexandria. So I started in 2012. Having been in the payments industry a long time, I then thought what I really wanted to do was go to Wits Business School and do some on-the-ground research. Now, I'm a chartered accountant by profession, so I didn't go and do any quantitative research. I went and did qualitative research. And that's about getting into Alexandria, a place that I grew up probably 4 kilometers away from in Buccleuch in the 70s and 80s. And I wanted to go and have a look at Alex and really deeply understand what the meaning of money to people is. Okay, so what is money? And I ask you all, just think about what does money actually mean to you? Okay, and then the next thing I want you to think about is the people in this room make up a very small percentage of the total South Africans. Okay? Now, it's an amazing thing. When I was doing this research, I used to sit in the Nedbank building and look across towards Alexandria. So I'd look out east, and I'd be sitting in one place, and I'd be thinking about where I'm going. Now, I don't know how many of you guys have ever driven down London Road. Okay, it's probably the quickest way to the airport. Not many people go down there. Okay? And even London Road is the border. Transport yourself into Alexandria and try and think about what's happening there. And that's pretty much what I went and did. The master's research, what it entailed was 18 people, 18 research participants that I call low-income people. So typically that's people earning between 2,000 and 3,000 rand a month. Interesting thing about living in Alex, everybody able-bodied who wants to earn some money can. They may not have a formal job. Okay, they may not get a pay slip at the end of the month, but they've got work. And I'm not suggesting for one moment that 2,000 or 3,000 rand is a lot of money or meaningful work, but it's enough to eat. Okay? So, before I get into more of the meaning of money, and that's going to come through later, I just want to start off with the problem statement. So, I don't know how many of you were with Johan Bent's presentation. How little discussion there is in our industry about cash. Almost no discussion about cash. Cash grows at 11% every year. So just rest on that for a moment. You know, we think about a cashless economy. Then the new terminology, a cash-light economy. Now, that is not going to happen. Not in my lifetime. If you listen to Johan Bent, it's not happening. Cash is growing. I was surprised to hear when we introduced debit cards, the number of ATMs in South Africa grew by 30%. So cash is a massively growing business. What is the problem with cash? Cost. 1.5 billion notes a year, was that correct? 1.5, and each one of those is one rand. So what is the total cost of cash to the economy? He was referencing numbers, 30% of the Reserve Bank's costs is cash. Okay? He was referencing the security issues. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I tell you, guns, they scare the living shit out of me. Okay? I go to a shopping center and I walk around and I see the ATM or the vehicle come in to do the ATM. I go that way. We live in a violent country. Okay? I go that way. I've had the displeasure of a shotgun in my stomach before. It's horrible. Okay? Cash, security, the risk around cash is enormous. And yet it grows by 11% every year. And where is the focus of the people in this room and the people at this conference? Where's the focus? The focus is on things like MasterPass, with respect. The focus is on SnapScan. The focus is on some other form of digital payment. What happens is all of the focus of innovation in this industry assumes that the money is in a bank account or some other store of value. I don't want to get into that debate. But it assumes digital money. How that money gets in, the physical money, the 110 billion rand, that's how much physical cash is in circulation. How that money gets into the bank account, nobody's thinking about. We assume that when the money is there, we will run to bank because I've now got a better experience of paying digitally. Very simply put, that 110 billion rand of physical money out there, 60 billion of it is in the informal economy. 30 billion of it is money under the mattress, money in my secret place, money that I've given to a trusted friend. Okay? So the master's research that I did is I had these 18 interviews, and I recorded those interviews on my phone. I then had them transcribed by a woman in Cape Town into text, and I analyzed the words that people used. And I listened to the way they said things, okay? To understand what that physical money under the mattress, and asking the question, why is that not in a bank account of some manner or form? I came to a simple conclusion, and I'm kind of jumping ahead to give you a sense of what interoperable cash-in means. And you guys have got to brace yourselves, because this is so simple that people can't understand it. Okay? It's such a simple, I get people sitting down in front of me with pieces of paper trying to draw all the pictures to understand what it is. What it is not is a new type of bank account. Okay? It's not about that. Okay? If you understand how cash out happens, how does cash out system? It starts at the Reserve Bank or at the Mint, and it goes through the commercial banks, through ATMs, and out to people. Okay? So it's very simple to understand how ATMs work, point of sales work. How many point of sales are in the country? 310,000. How many ATMs are in the country? 35,000. Okay? Money going out of the system has very little friction. Let's think about that concept. Very little friction. How does money get back in? If I've got physical cash in my wallet and I wanted to put that into the system, how would I do that? Well, I'm a Nedbank client. Okay? What I would do is I would find my closest Nedbank branch during office hours. I would then stand in a queue and pay the cash deposit fee. Now that doesn't sound like a very frictionless system. They're going to charge me, what are they going to charge me? Probably $6 if I've got the really cheap account. Okay? Other banks are charging different amounts of money. Some is tiered and all that sort of thing. But the first thing, it's the inconvenience. Now try and picture yourself, I'm living in Alexandra Township. Now how do I get that money into Nedbank? I walk up the hill to the Pan Africa Mall with $300 or whatever that may be, and stand in a queue to deposit. I could probably find one of the 2,000, that's the whole universe, of cash accepting ATMs. Okay? And increasingly we're encouraged to go to electronic places to put your money in. You get the point, it's quite inconvenient. So all interoperable cash in is the reverse of out. Okay? So I go to Pick n Pay, I put in my card, I hand over the $300, we do a transaction, and they print me a slip, and my money is in the account regardless of whether it's FNB or Nedbank or Capitec, it makes no difference. I can put the money in. So we start out with all the infrastructure of the bank. What is an interoperable system? It's where the participants in the total system can use the infrastructure of the participating banks or whoever else, the retailers, whoever it may be. Okay, so just rest. That's as simple as it is. There's nothing more complicated. It's about putting money in. Now you're going to ask yourself, why would you want to do that? And the important thing about this is it's not about you guys. It's actually got nothing to do with the people in this room. It's got to do with 70% of South Africans that live on about 2,000 Rand a month each. I don't know how good your 70% times table is, but if there are 55 million people in the country, we're talking about 35 million people. That's the kind of environment they live in. I want to tell you a little story. Tell you the story about what money actually means to people, low-income people. So you'll see a couple of the some pictures there from my research. So some of the stuff I'm going to tell you is so obvious, but I just ask you to reflect on it. Number one priority. What does money mean to people? Referenced by Johan earlier, it's food. Okay, so we've all had a glorious lunch. How many of you finished your lunch today? How many of you picked every piece off the chicken bone? Okay? So food is the most important concept for money. Okay? Why do I need food? There's a wonderful concept about, one of my research participants said, the township mother is the ace cook, is an ace cook. Now what does that mean? It means that I take simple ingredients. I might buy an onion and a tomato and a tin and a thing of knorr, okay, a little stock cube. Buy those ingredients. My duty as a township mother, the people that I'm looking after, is to prepare a meal that they want to eat. A meal that they sit around and they scrape every last piece of food. So why? So that they can get energy. Get energy to work. I can work to earn income. Okay? Income so that I can eat and do other things. Okay? So that's food, and that circle of life is very prevalent. It is the meaning of money for low-income people, not just in Alex. And you know the fascinating thing about this piece of research is you guys, we all see this every day. Okay? You do not have to go into Alexandra to go and witness this. Stop at the stop street, the guy who wishes to wash your windows, collect your rubbish, do juggling balls for you. What's he doing? Think about the money that you may give him. You know, I keep 5 Rand coins, 2 Rand coins, and I give that bit of money. Where do you think that money's going? It's to buy little pieces of food, to live, to get energy to work. My favorite moment of all of this research was I was talking to a bunch of young guys, and they were telling me about how much they party. I mean, you guys enjoy to have a few drinks and party. You know, just because I'm low income doesn't mean that I don't want to do those things too. And they were telling me about the different nicknames they have for drinks. So a Ferrari. What's a Ferrari? It's a Hunter's because it's got that horse on the front. Okay, and it gets you smashed quicker. Okay? All right? Now they're telling me all these wild stories. Okay, and about how they party, how they pool their money. And 4 young guys were going to have a big fat jaw on the weekend. Okay? And we've covered this topic, and I'm looking for something new. And one of the guys says, in a very low voice, he says, no money, no love. Okay? So as a man, if I don't have money, if I don't have the clothing that represents having money, what's my chances of a date on a Friday night, getting married, or whatever your particular definition of love is? Okay? So no money, no love. The other big one was education, how deeply valued education is, and particularly by women in the township. They understand there's a little guy, he needs to go to school. So a lot of resources into going to school. Why should he go to school? It's called a retirement policy. Okay? Get my kids out of this thing get them a degree, get them into proper formal work, transforms people's lives. But if we go back to the food issue, I want you to think about probably the most significant thing, is they do not earn their money in a monthly salary check, monthly salary EFT. They do not earn their money, by and large, in a weekly wage. 5 crisp 100 rands notes in a brown envelope. It's not how it works. How do they earn their money? Exactly the way I talked about earlier, where it's little coins and little notes every second of every day. Okay? So I wake up in the morning and I wash my first car, I give my first haircut, I sell my first packet of chips. Whatever that may be, I'm earning income every second of every day, and I'm spending income every second of every day. There is no opportunity to bank that money. It is transactional. So importantly for me, in all of this, we have to split out the meaning of money from a savings point of view and the meaning of money from a transactional point of view. Interoperable cash-in is, in the first instance, focused on how you get money in from a savings point of view. The 30 billion rand that sits under the mattress. Anybody interested in banking the 30 billion? Basel III, cheap deposits, get that money in. Okay? Financial inclusion, I loved the governor's, deputy governor's thing about, it's not really about financial inclusion anymore. We've got 80% financial inclusion. It's about financial deepening. It's about how do we give those people bank accounts that they actually can use for utility. So I just want to ask you to think about, in the first instance, physical money as savings, and then we'll deal with the transactional piece a little bit later on. But I'll tell you a little story about physical money, and can it be savings? So I was sitting there and I heard a fire engine, and I said to the young guy I was with, I said, "What is that?" And he said, "That is a shack fire." Okay? And I said, "Gee, what do they lose in a shack fire?" It's a bit of a silly question, but his answer in these words is profound. They lose everything, including money saved. Those were his exact words. And I asked myself the question, as a banking industry, as a payments industry, how is it that those people are keeping 30 billion rand under the mattress in their secret place, given to a trusted friend? I give $100 to a trusted friend. There is no discussion about interest. There is no discussion about cost. There is no cash deposit fee, and there is no cash withdrawal fee. It's $100. And I ask the question, as a banking industry in South Africa, why is it that we cannot be that trusted friend? So my contention is that the trust issue is around cost. The trust issue is about inconvenience. The exact words used is to put my money into a bank account and to watch my money get cut. Okay? That's the reality of it. My money gets cut. I've briefly talked about this cost of cash deposits. I did a little bit of analysis. Standard Bank, $32 at a branch. Straight fixed. Now, I don't know what Standard Bank are thinking in that light. Nedbank, I think, is $6. Some of them tier it. So it'll be R1.32 per 100 rand. It doesn't matter which way you look at it, it's an expensive thing. And it's not just about putting the money in, it's about putting the money out. Okay, so the concept of savings, I'm not talking about savings for retirement. I'm not talking about savings so that you may retire and, down to the south coast or to the south of France or whatever. We're not talking about that. We're talking about savings for tomorrow. We're talking about savings for next month, if I'm unable to work and to eat. In fact, we're talking about simply a store of value. Okay, we can get into savings and investment products and all of that kind of stuff. But all I'm talking about is being able to put money into a store of value, and I can draw it later without my money being cut, without the cash deposit fee and the cash withdrawal fee. How it works, I'm not bothering with that thing anymore. How it works, we've talked about how it works. Okay? So that whole concept of the physical infrastructure that we as a banking industry already have out there. And you know, the interesting thing is, this is happening every day. Nedbank have an arrangement with Pick n Pay. Various other banks have got relationships with other retailers where I can put money into my own account. Okay? I can put money into my Nedbank account, but I cannot go to the Pick n Pay and say, I'm an FNB client, can I please put money in? That's not going to work. So all those little closed loop systems, it's about expanding that to a network where I can deposit the money into any bank account. Now think about the infrastructure that we've got. Pick n Pay, ShopRite, the post office. I think the post office are looking for a reason to exist. Why can't I go into a post office and deposit the money into my bank account? Okay? A lotto outlet. You know, the interesting thing about all of this is the people that are most expert at processing cash are retailers. They process cash all day, every day. And I'm simply asking the question is, why can we not use that infrastructure to enable people at very low cost or no cost? My ideal is no cost, okay, that people can put that in. So where we've taken this concept, so it's not just a concept. The first person I went to talk about this particular thing was my boss in the bank, because this has got actually nothing to do with my current job. The second person I went to talk to was Walter Volker. The third person I went to talk to was Alvan Berger. I'm now on about 200 people telling this story, one-on-one. The people that I've also told this story to well received National Treasury. What do they want out of this? Financial inclusion. The Reserve Bank, FSB. So what I'm trying to do here is to create a network of people that see this opportunity, that see one of the critical things, and I'm going to use that term, the war on cash, about how we move from an 11% increase to a decrease. How do we start decreasing that over time? Is we have to get the entire community of payments, banking, retail, whatever technology providers, whatever you are, we need to get those people into a sense where we actually understand that it's not just about the digital payments out of your bank account. It's how do you get the physical money into the bank account to start. The step we're now at is to write a policy paper. A policy paper which says, from a mass industry point of view, from a multi-industry point of view, how do we all cooperate to make the cake bigger? All right? It's about making the cake bigger. It's not about individual banks running off on their own NIR opportunities. It's about how do we get that 30 billion and slowly get into that 110 billion into the banking system. When I went to see Alvan on Tuesday, you know, he grilled me about this thing. Okay, so I've written the paper, he's read the paper. And I sat there, and I don't know how many of you guys know Alvan. Quite an intimidating guy. So Alvan is grilling me about what are we doing? What are we actually trying to achieve? What's the bigger picture? And in actual fact, what he's doing is he said, look, I support what you're doing, but what is the bigger picture? What is this utility? How do we get into the transactional side of this thing? What do those people actually want? What is the ecosystem that we need to create? And I heard those words, ecosystem. What I studied at WITS was a thing called social informatics. Social informatics is about people and technology. Social informatics is about actor network theory and big ecosystems of how you make all of this stuff work. Why did M-Pesa fail? The ecosystem was a disaster. There were critical elements of the ecosystem that weren't in place. Okay? All of these closed loop systems, what do they need? They need money in. You know, there are people in this room that are dealing exactly. What do? They've got to make sure that you get the money in, the low-cost money in. And then Alvan says to me, you know what these people really want? And it was referenced earlier. Get the money into a bank account. We need to create a national infrastructure of cell phone numbers and bank accounts. Okay? A national infrastructure, cell phone number, bank account. I can pull it out. I want to send the money to Gary. He tells me his cell phone number. We send that in. The database works out which bank account it must go to and shoots that off. You know, we've always been talking about the mobile phone and the opportunity. And one thing I can tell you from my research is people in Alexandra are so comfortable with mobile phones, and we all know that. You know, it's about the utility they get out of that mobile phone and the ability. And again, guys, we cannot get into a movie of saying, because what I'm talking about is an EFT, is it not? It's about generating an EFT from my phone to Gary's phone. We cannot charge like $3.50 for that. $3.50 is a lot of money, and I think that's a big part of what we don't appreciate. I actually think there's a cutoff line at $5. $5 and less can be dealt with. I just quoted R3.50, so I'm going to talk against myself. But R5 and less is an acceptable amount of money to pay for something of value. R5 and more is not. Why? Because it costs R6 for a taxi fare. Okay? For R6 I can buy half a loaf of bread. Okay? For R6 there's a lot I can do. And I ask myself, why? Why should I pay a bank $6 to do something where I can just keep the cash myself? Ladies and gentlemen, I'd welcome some questions. I see Jill has stood up, which indicates that I've got about 5 minutes left, but I'd be happy to close there and answer some questions.
In short, effectively what you're saying, you need to get a new interbank system, deposit transaction switch between banks. You need a translation mechanism to associate a particular cell phone number with a particular bank account.
Look, that is the second part. So in the first instance, I've taken a narrow view, taking my research in low-income communities, saying we need to make it very convenient and very low cost or no cost to get the money into the bank account. For that, I'm proposing a reverse of the current ATM point of sale machine, and then the next part is to give utility.
So you're saying you want to be able to initiate deposit transactions at every point of sale.
Correct.
To any account.
Exactly.
So how far are you effectively you only have the proposal section, and you need the proposal section to the banks, because obviously there's something that has to decide with clear. Is it, will this be different from the Reserve Bank side, or how do you think we move forward beyond your proposal?
So I didn't catch everything that you said, but
I'm saying I would move forward. If the proposal now goes out, what would be the next steps in making it actually?
okay. I think it's an important question. Is that we need a and you heard what Deputy Governor Groep said this morning around PASA in its current form and expanding PASA, retailers. So I see a multi-industry project which has already sort of started within PASA, looking at that transaction type, because it's a transaction type on a point of sale. You know, looking at that to be the switch network. When I first started out, I didn't look particularly at the technology solution to solve, but it seems like the most obvious thing. You have this infrastructure out there. So it's certainly about getting all interested parties, whether they be retailers, post office, banks, government, because I think government have got, you know, big policy issues from a financial inclusion point of view that they need to solve for.
Graeme, I'm involved in the cash industry. Question. This is an industry characterized by institutional costs up to 95% of which are fixed. While I support the idea and I think it's noble enough, how do you plan to displace those costs? Because it sounds like you're just moving them down the value chain to someone else who can pay for them. And we all know what happens with socialism. Eventually it runs out of other people's money.
Yeah, so you're saying 95% of costs are fixed. Yeah, I mean, look, I can understand that. We heard this morning a cash centre is R1 billion. You know, presumably the security cost. You know, you've got to, you know, I suppose the question is, if it's 110 billion rand now, what does that cost the entire economy? If it became 90 billion, what sort of reduction would we get in that? If it became 50 billion, what would it then mean? Yeah, look, for me, the two big issues of a multi-industry project, one is the technology to use, and number two, and I think from an academic point of view, the thing that's really required in South Africa is a complete understanding of the costs of cash and how those are dispersed. because I think they're unequally dispersed across the economy from whether it be retailers or banks or Reserve Bank or consumers at the end of the day. So I think your point is right. That is a big focus of how do we get that right.
Hello, I'm Gilmer Stazen from First Rand Bank. I just wanted to find out, in terms of your solutions, proposed solutions, have you looked at models that have worked in other countries? And I'm specifically referring to, we have an operation in India, where they have a model where they, sort of like someone let's say in the industry, let's say, has a high standing in the community. That person will take deposits. They will put those deposits in the bank to earn interest and stuff like that. So have you thought about those things? And also potentially, I know the big risks we have there is around your KYC process and how you manage those. Yeah,
look, I've certainly not looked at the model in India beyond the community banking. I think in Indonesia there's some interesting examples. Perhaps the one, and Kenya's a slightly different one because it's dominated by M-Pesa. But if you look at the agent network around bringing money in and super agents, that's how they've solved for their cash in and cash out scenario. But again, I think it's, the important thing is to get, I think a lot, number one of the aspects that I'm appealing for is much more focus on this, less focus on other areas, and focus from the broad banks, retailers, academia. I think there needs to be a lot more sort of real research, real study into South Africa now. While I think it's wonderful that we go and look at different things all over the world, and your point is well made, I think a criticism is we don't look enough here for solutions, and I'm not just talking about cash. I think we're far too Eurocentric in our thinking, far too looking at America, Australia. I say that's fine, you can learn from that. But I think we need to be focused on solutions for South Africa.
Graeme, thanks for that speech. Graeme, my name is Paul. I represent PEP stores in South Africa.
Sorry, I should have said PEP. They're in the document.
So one of the interesting things that you were mentioning about policy papers and all the great solutions, we just want to make a few comments. Those solutions, guys, exist already. In fact, as you know, that between Shoprite Checkers and ourselves, we do closely about 4 million money transfers every month, which we haven't talked about, by the way, because it doesn't flow through a formal banking system. The interesting thing that we found as well is that the customer will go from his place to work, walk into the closest PEP, deposit his money, goes to his home and go to a PEP again to withdraw his money, or to go to a Shoprite to withdraw that same money transfer, or to any of this about 7,000 ABSA ATMs. No cost. The other interesting thing is with regards to bank accounts, is you can now open up a PEP bank account at any PEP within 3 minutes. The deposit into that bank account costs you nothing. So there's another example. You can send that money to anyone at 99 cents. Fully fledged bank account supported by ABSA. So it exists already. The interesting thing, Graeme, that sometimes surprised us, we also do about 2 million payments every month. So the question is, thanks, the question is, the solutions exist already. We don't need more policy papers. We've in fact approached 4 different banks, all the main banks, saying to them, at any of our close to 2,000 payment points, you can do your deposits into your bank accounts via PEP. Why do we want to make it so difficult? This is the question.
Paul, thank you for it. I think that's a wonderful contribution, and what it demonstrates is that we have created as a country many different closed-loop systems. So whether it's PEP, ABSA working together, whether it's Shoprite, Capitec working together, whether it's ABSA or Nedbank or Sendi Mali or ABSA Money Send or any one of these many different things, they are still closed-loop systems. And exactly what you're saying is I'm simply saying open those up. Why hasn't this thing got to a point now? Okay, so now I'm going to be a bit controversial. For me, the Competitions Commission of 2006 did a national disservice to this country from a collaboration point of view. Banks do not collaborate anymore. We run off and do our own things with separate retailers. What this thing needs, if you think about ATM cash withdrawals, SASwitch, that was probably one of the most innovative, collaborative things that happen in payments ever. Okay, payments is a collaborative game, and we've now all run away, and I think it's just a question of it's an inefficient system having all of these different, so look, policy paper, whatever. What I'm requesting or what I'm asking for is from a more collaborative environment.
Graeme, well, thanks. We've nearly run out of time, but Graeme, you've given us a lot of insight, and I'm very passionate about this as well, because I think we all sit in this room, as you said, we eat our lunch, we look at our reality in our day-to-day lives, and we forget there are people out there that actually do have cash. And I also think, in banking myself, and if I look at the kind of discussions we have in-house, it's all about how do we get the money out. And I don't think we focus enough about how do we get the money in and how do we service these people. Because it does take a lot of money. You've got to catch a taxi or you've got to walk and you're trying to earn an income. I think you've given us lots of food for thought, and from PASA we've got a little gift just to say thanks very much for your time and effort. And let's give Graeme a big round of applause for you.